This video is sponsored by Renva Turmeric Shakes, sold on Amazon. Enjoy 3 amazingly delicious flavors: vanilla chai latte, peanut butter cup, and ginger lemon drop. Welcome to the TSD Mindfulness video for teaching number 4. Teaching number 4, logic and survival instinct cannot wholeheartedly be trusted. All right, this is a big one. This is kind of the core of so much of what we're going to be doing in these trainings. So culturally, logic and instinct are very accepted and considered quite valid, right? The logic being logical, trusting your instinct, right? And, using our logic to solve problems, and considering instinct being what has kept our species alive. And the thing is that logic and instinct, they really do work, right? In a lot of cases, they're very helpful. However, I want to challenge you on this a little bit. This idea of basing your decisions or your process really based in logic and also or based in instinct, this approach is not as helpful when dealing with relationships. And I'll break this down, I'll explain this, but just see if you can let that settle for a moment. That really approaching a relationship, we don't necessarily want to use the logical approach or really base it on our instincts. So you might want to take a moment to consider why that might be true. All right, so one reason is that logic and instinct can actually distract us from our hearts. So logic is so much of the mind, and instinct is so much of the nervous system. And like I had mentioned before, our thinking and our nervous system triggers can really distract us from what's going on in the heart. So again, one of the reasons why relying on logic and instinct isn't that great when it comes to relationships is because it's going to distract us, pull us away from our own hearts. And so that's so much about what this practice is about leaning into moving our consciousness into your heart. Your heart, and when I use the word heart, I'm talking about these deep emotional experiences of love, of gratitude, of abandonment, of betrayal. These are all these deep emotional experiences in the heart. And it's not based in logic, right? Betrayal isn't logical. Love is often not logical, not based in instinct. Okay, it's just truly based on this deep emotional experience. So since the mind is so based in logic, one of the ways that we actually step away from all the thinking is to step away from the logic, is to let the logic go, even if temporarily, even if just during your 15-minute meditation. And since instinct is so much what drives your nervous system, then, to move our consciousness into our hearts, we can begin to let go of that instinct and move away from that instinct in order to kind of take a temporary break, in a sense, from our nervous system. And I know that sounds really kind of out there, but you'll see in the process how that plays out. So like I said, effective ways to let go of the logic and tame your mind is through the traditional mindfulness approaches of paying attention to your breath, your body, the sounds in your environment, for example. And the most effective ways to kind of step away from that instinct, from those nervous system responses, is to reassure your nervous system that that you're safe. In this moment, you truly are safe. So again, this teaching is logic and survival instinct cannot be wholeheartedly trusted. All right. So consider that a way of thinking, you've gotten to a way of thinking maybe in the last couple weeks that was not helpful, right? You kind of came up with this logic that ended up not being helpful. And so that's important to notice that coming to that conclusion that ended up not being helpful was probably based in logic. It could have been based in logic, and to look at that. And so it's important to see that logic is not bound to supporting our highest interest. It's not bound to supporting our highest good. Logic is not synonymous with good. And so I think in our culture, we've done that. We sometimes interchange, that logic and good are interchangeable, but they're not. Sometimes logic is good, but sometimes it's not. And so that's what I'm inviting you to do here, is to consider how sometimes the logical process is not helpful. Revenge is logical. This person did this to me, therefore I'm going to do this back to them. Blame is logical. Well, because of this reason, it's their fault. It's a very logical sequence. Kindness can be logical, right? Well, if this person did this for me, then I will be kind to them. But wouldn't it be better if the kindness came from more of a heart-centered place, not a place of logic, but just simply from that deep emotional place, from the heart? Gratitude can also be logical. Well, this happened, this person did this, so then I need to thank them, right? That is a logical way to come about gratitude, but wouldn't it be better to express your gratitude from a place from the heart, from that deep emotional place, rather than a logical sequence? So what I'm hoping to show here is that logic is conditional. If then this, right? If X, then Y. If X, then not Y. It's this conditional relationship. And that is logic. Logic is conditional. And in this approach with mindfulness, and any type of mindfulness, what we want to do is learn ways to actually step away, let go of this conditional type thinking. Therefore, this logic is sometimes valuable and sometimes not, as I've shown some examples of how logic cannot be valuable. So logic in itself cannot wholeheartedly be trusted all the time, every time. And that's the point that we're making here. So instinct, the same scenario. This survival instinct works in the same way. It can be helpful, right? But then there's these situations where actually it's not necessarily helpful, and we shouldn't necessarily listen to our instinct. So that's what I'm going to challenge you to think about next. So what are some examples of when instinct maybe isn't something that we would pay attention to dictate our actions? And you're already doing this. You might not realize it, but an example would be a speech. You need to give a speech, right? You need to stand up in front of a crowd and do some public speaking. So your nervous system is triggered, and it's kind of telling you, no, don't do this. This isn't safe. Back away, right? But you don't listen to that. Because that instinctual response is not for your benefit, right? You need to go up there and give the speech. And in the end, you'll feel better and you'll feel good about yourself, and it'll have, a positive outcome. But that would be an example of when our nervous system, that instinct is telling us not to do something when really it would be good to do it. Another example would be with a romantic partner. Say you want to get vulnerable with your romantic partner and share something that's really meaningful to you, that puts you in a vulnerable emotional place when you share this with your romantic partner. But your nervous system triggers and tells you, stop, no, don't do this, it's not safe. And in some relationships, maybe it wouldn't be safe. Maybe it's not safe to be vulnerable with that person. But in a lot of situations, it is going to be safe for you to be vulnerable with that person. And your nervous system, your instinct is telling you you're not safe. So this is another example of how instinct it cannot wholeheartedly be trusted. So TSD mindfulness helps you navigate all this, right? So it helps you become more clear about, oh, is this instinct that I should pay attention to and follow, or is this an instinct that maybe I shouldn't? It's going to help you with that logic. Is this a logic that I should follow, or is this a logic that I shouldn't follow? So it can be very supportive in helping you find clarity and making decisions in your life. That concludes teaching number 4. Logic and survival instinct cannot be wholeheartedly trusted.